Langbourne's Evolution, written by Alan P. Landau, narrated by Adrian Galley, an Audioshelf production. To my lovely wife, Sharon, without whom I would never have written these books. Chapter 1. Bulawayo, Rhodesia, 1898. Morris walked briskly along the earthen street into the gloom of their warehouse with a brown folder clutched tightly under his left arm. Wearing a light grey day suit and an ominous frown, he ignored everyone he passed, as his thoughts were all-consuming. David's brow creased as he took in his brother's mood and stole a quick glance at Harry, who merely shrugged in silence. Gently closing the drawer of the cash register, David quietly followed Morris into his office. "What's wrong?" David asked as he entered the dingy room with some concern in his voice. "I hate those meetings," Morris snapped as he tossed the folder onto his desk. The sheets of paper inside fanned out slightly, exposing some of Morris's illegible scrawl, doodles, and ink blotches. "Now I have to write up the minutes as the secretary didn't attend, and you know how I feel about that." David was about to offer to write up the minutes for him, but a momentary glance at the illegible scribbles that the brown folder exposed made him change his mind abruptly. "Well, that's what happens when they hold you in such high regard," said David, trying to ease the atmosphere with a compliment. About 7 months earlier, in mid-November 1897, 3 distinguished elderly gentlemen had approached Morris as he enjoyed a family meal with his brothers at the Charter Hotel, and asked if they might have a private word with him. They introduced themselves as representatives of the Jewish community of Bulawayo, an introduction which had taken Morris by surprise. He had realized, though, that it would have just been a matter of time before his Jewish heritage had been discovered, hard as he had tried to conceal it. They informed him that they had received word that a gentleman overseas called Theodore Herzl had formed a group called the Zionist Organization, and their first congress had just been held in Basel, Switzerland. The 3 men had been asked to establish a branch of the group in Rhodesia, as had other Jews scattered around the world. They didn't have many details of what the organization was about or what it stood for, but it had something to do with uniting all Jews around the globe as one voice, possibly because of the persecution they'd endured over many decades. They wanted Morris to be the chairman of the inaugural meeting in Rhodesia and to form the association officially. Morris had agreed, and so it was that at the age of 22 he chaired the first meeting of the Rhodesian Zionist movement, just 3 months after it was formally established in Switzerland. 24 people attended, and it was a most awkward gathering, as almost every attendee had a strongly held personal opinion on what exactly the purpose of the movement was. In the end, Morris dismissed the meeting with only one resolution. The Rhodesian chapter would just be called the Friends of Zion Society and nothing more. It was a perfect solution to a sensitive situation, and the delegates were so pleased with Morris and his conduct that they immediately appointed him as their president for the future meetings. "I've decided to resign at the next meeting. I have better things to spend my time on," Morris grumbled as he removed his jacket and hung it on a nail on the wall. He looked at his pocket watch and noticed it had stopped. He had forgotten to wind it that morning, as he was wont to do, which made him even more irritated with the way the day was going. "What's the time?" he shot at David, as he fumbled with the minuscule winding mechanism, giving up almost immediately in frustration. Right on cue, Harry's muffled voice filtered through to the office. "Time, please, ladies and gentlemen." 5 o'clock precisely, Morris," David announced with a wink. "Good." Morris reached for the ledger that stood on its end on a shelf and sat down at his desk, placing it heavily on top of the committee meeting notes and opening the sturdy leather cover. "Cash up and bring me the figures."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?